So a very kind evening to all respective doctors and our colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, me, Harshit Gupta, on behalf of Mankind Pharma, take this immense pleasure and opportunity in extending a warm welcome to all of you to this evening webinar called Health and Immunity in Today's Era. Dear Dr. 2020 is the year when mankind successfully completed 25 years of its journey in the pharma industry. And in all these successful years, our vision has been to become the most admired Indian global pharma company. Sir, we at Mankind continually strive to improve quality of life of our patients and nurture innovation and towards that our three basic principles of serving life, that is quality, reach and affordability. Not only that, today Mankind Pharma is a vertically integrated Indian global pharma company with a vast presence in API and formulation segments. The primary venue for this is to Mankind Research Center in Manesar, which has multifaceted development capabilities like new drug discovery research, API, formulation and development, and biosimilars. Sir, over the years, we have well represented ourselves in almost all major therapeutic classes with leadership position in many like nutraceutical, cardiovascular, orthopedic, pain management, anti-diabetic. Sir, our global presence in 22 different countries got a further gallop with our first operation being started in New Jersey, US, few years back, where is a dedicated team is currently working towards getting a number of products registered. And these few little initiatives could made us to achieve few awards and rewards over the years. To invite my colleague, Mr. Nakul, for discussing few corporate initiatives taken by Mankind during COVID pandemic. Over to you, Nakul.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harshit. And adding to this, as always, Mankind has taken various initiatives for global partnership research, CSR activities, even during the COVID-19 pandemic. As a pioneer research-based organization, Mankind has discovered 3 novel chemical entities targeting JAK-STAT GPR119 for chronic illnesses like diabetes, arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, non-alcoholic fatty liver diseases. Globally, amid COVID-19 pandemic is concerned, Mankind has also partnered with Korean-based pharmaceutical company for the clinical trials of niclosamide for COVID-19 and pledged to offer affordable therapy for the same. Mankind has contributed in various CSR activities for needier people, medical professional doctors, and contributed in various government activities to alleviate the suffering of the mankind, such as donation to the PM CARES Fund, flood relief to the Assam and Bihar, which are the basically two states of India, and donation to the police departments for the welfare of their society because they have contributed a lot among the during this COVID-19 pandemic in India. We thank once again for your support and encouragement and sparing time for this knowledge-based session. Now I introduce Dr. Prashant Agrawal as today's speaker on the very buzzing topic of health and immunity in today's era. Dr. Prashant is an advisor in Mankind's medical affairs team, also a seasoned educator on the medical topics, and has conducted various educational programs for general clinical practice in the past. Now I hand over the session to Dr. Prashant. Over to you, Dr. Prashant.
Thank you, Nakul. So can I now share my slides? Okay. So Nakul, are my slides visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, so is it visible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to this scientific session here. So today's our topic is health and immunity in today's era. So as we are already aware that we are now undergoing a situation Nakul, am I visible?
Yes, Dr. Prashant, you can restart.
Okay. So as we are already aware, as per our global situation currently, and WHO data says more than 26 million patients have been now identified with the COVID-19 situation, and more than zero point 0.8 million have been incurred to the death due to this global situation of COVID-19. If I talk about Africa situation, it's a little bit better, I would say that, but still in Africa, more than 1 million patients have been confirmed by the COVID-19. And the latest figure was more than 5,000 patients have been identified with the COVID-19 yesterday only. So why we are talking about this coronavirus and all? First of all, we need to understand, I mean, what is this virus? I guess there has been multiple data has already been transmitted, and there might be having many search. I mean, you have been already doing searches and read about this coronavirus. So this novel coronavirus, it was first identified in Wuhan, China, and as per WHO, in December 2019, they officially announced that yes, this virus exists, and it's an enveloped RNA virus, also called severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2. The disease this virus causes is severe acute respiratory syndrome. But this is not the first virus, or not the first coronavirus, I would say. It is the seventh coronavirus which is known to infect humans. Before that, we had SARS virus in 2002, 2003. Then we had MERS, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome virus, which was in 2012. And now we have this SARS-CoV-2. So again, now I'm showing some data, some scattered data right now. Then I will go ahead, as soon as I will go ahead with my slides, you will get to know the idea. I mean, why I'm talking about all this data. So this is the data because I was told that some Sri Lankan, their doctors from Sri Lanka are also there. So in Sri Lanka, the adult population also face malnutrition burden, right? 32%, 32.6% of women of reproductive age have anemia, right? If we go move to again Africa, in Africa there has been some progresses towards achieving global nutrition target, but still there is not a single country in that region is on course to meet the target for anemia in women of reproductive age, low birth weight, male diabetes, male obesity, and female obesity. Every country in the world is affected by malnutrition, right? So we have to act now. We have to break the chain. We have to break the down silos and develop comprehensive program, priorities, and invest in the data needed and capacity to use it. Scalp up and diversify financing and nutrition. Focus on healthy diet and improve the targets and commitments that are driving actors. But I know I'm not going to talk about all the data, all the programs, or the nutritional programs and all. What I'm going to talk about is how this malnutrition issue is correlated with our immunity, and which immunity is actually causing viral infections and any other kinds of infections. So how does our immune system actually works? You are, I guess, already aware. So if all you have basic medical knowledge, right? So it protects our body from harmful substances, right? Whether germs and cell changes that could make you ill. It is made up of various organ cells and proteins. So starting from our skin to the deep down to thymus, our lymph nodes and all, every spleen, everything is part of our, and even various cells, B cells, T cells, these are part of our immune system. So as long as our immune system is running smoothly, we don't have to notice that we don't notice actually that is there, right? But when it stops working properly because it's weak or can't fight particularly aggressive germs, you get it, right? Germs that your body has never encountered before are also likely to make you ill. Some germs will only make you ill the first time you come in contact with them. These includes like childhood diseases like chickenpox. So it's a silent protector which is covering our body, which is protecting our body to the outside harms. Now, immune system or immunity can be divided into two parts, innate and adaptive. Then if we talk about first the innate immunity. So innate immunity basically is what we get since birth, which is barriers like physical barriers like epithelium, mucosa. Then the complement system is there. Then in the immediate response category, we have neutrophil, white blood cells. Then we have antigen presenting cells, macrophages or natural killer cells. Then we come to adaptive immunity. So adaptive immunity can be divided into two parts. One is the naturally acquired, second is the artificially acquired. The naturally acquired and again can be divided into active and passive. So active, natural, adaptive immunity. Example, antigens enter the body naturally. Body induces antibodies and specialized lymphocytes. For example, any viral infection. So any viral or any bacterial or any kind of infection which is occurring to our body, so naturally we are getting infected, and then in reaction to that our body produces antibodies. So that is active naturally acquired adaptive immunity. Passive natural acquired adaptive immunity means antibodies which are passed from mother to fetus via placenta or via mother's milk. Then we have active artificially acquired adaptive immunity, in which we introduce antigen actively to the body in the form of vaccines. And in reaction to that, our body produces antibodies and specialized lymphocytes. Then we have an example of passive also. So in the passive artificial adaptive is like kind of convalescent serum, plasma serum transfers. So in which already prepared antibodies are transferred to the patient to help them fight against the infection. Major difference between innate and adaptive is innate, the response is usually immediate. So the first immunity, the first barrier or first line of defense usually is the innate immunity, which acts immediately, right? And it has not antigen specific, means it doesn't matter whether it's bacteria, whether it's virus or anything else, they work in a same manner. Then they have an exposure result in no immunological memory. So there is no immunological memory also. They will react in the same manner the first time, the second time, the third time, or infinite times, they will act on the same manner. Then we have adaptive, which is basically antigen dependent, means it can identify which kind of bacteria or which kind of virus. So depending upon the pathogen, the response can be varied. There is a lag time between exposure and maximal response. Antigen specific exposure results in immunological memory also. So they form some memory cells. You must have heard memory B cells, memory T cells. They basically are formed so that in future, if this reaction, this infection reoccurs, then body's immune response can be more effective. These are the few cells of innate and adaptive immune system. As you can see, innate dendritic cells which are present in our brain, natural killer cells, epithelial barrier, phagocyte, macrophages. Then on the other hand, adaptive, we have B cells, T cells, so on. So organs of the immune system are positioned throughout the body. As I was saying already, tonsils, skin, lymph nodes, bone marrow, appendix, spleen, Peyer's patches, everywhere. These immune organs are present in our body. But why we are already aware when immune system down, then the chance of infection increases. But why is it so? In some people, immunity is not up to the mark. In some, immunity is up to the mark, right? So there are various factors actually which affects our immune function during adulthood. One of the important factor is poor diet. Poor diet, it can be because of restricted diet, can be because of sedentary lifestyle, obesity, can be because of hectic, stressful lifestyle, fast food eating, energy dense but micronutrient poor food, low income, lack of fresh nutrition food, right? And this poor diet can lead to suboptimal nutritional status over the period of time, and which can lead to compromised immune function. So that is why I showed you in the start that data, that how obesity and malnutrition is still there in Sri Lanka or in African countries. So how this nutrition and immunity is actually correlated? So it is now well versed that nutritional deficiencies are associated with impaired cell-mediated immunity, reduced number of circulating T lymphocytes, particularly CD4 helper T cells and CD3 plus and CD25 plus T cells. And that bear the interleukin IL-2 receptors also. Decreased lymphocyte stimulation response to mitogens and antigens, altered production of cytokines, lower secretory IgA antibody response on mucosal surfaces, decreased antibody affinity, and phagocytic dysfunction. So overall, malnutrition can lead to poor immunity. So we can see this immunodeficiency, the malnutrition, it's a kind of umbrella. So it's a single view of host defenses as a protective umbrella consisting of physical barrier, non-specific mechanisms like complement, lysozyme, phagocyte, and antigen-specific like antibody cell-mediated. So all put together, they form a protective umbrella. And while due to the malnutrition, this umbrella is defective, then definitely you will get wet, means you will get infections. Now, how this immunity and our health means we will be talking about nutritional health, definitely. So what is actually health? Health is nothing but a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or lack of nutrition, right? Lack of nutrition is important, but overall health has many factors like mental, physical, and social. When we talk about nutrition advice for adults during the COVID-19 outbreak, it should be wholesome food, right? It should be complete nutrition, starting from macronutrients to micronutrients. While macronutrients, it comes proteins, fat, carbs that you already were, and micros, we have vitamins and minerals. So if we talk about micronutrients in a big picture, so they are nutrients required in small quantity and are essential for normal metabolism of our body. Micronutrients are vitamins and minerals. So vitamins, we are already aware, we have water soluble and fat soluble. Water soluble, we have BC, so WBC, water soluble vitamin B and C. Then we have fat soluble vitamin, which is vitamin A, D, E, and K. They are important for maintenance of normal growth of the body, improve stamina and immunity, and play important role in metabolic processes. Then on the other hand, we have minerals, which are inorganic compounds essential for normal growth, again, repair of cells and tissues. And we have, again, in the minerals, we have macro minerals and we have micro. So macro means which we need in large quantity, micro, which we need in a lower quantity. So macro is like calcium, phosphorus, sodium, potassium, etc. Then in micro, we have iron, zinc, and copper. So all this incomplete nutrition. So incomplete nutrition is a condition of incomplete nutrition that can affect the growth and development in children and various diseases in adults. So consequences, what can be the consequences of malnutrition? General debility, weakness, lethargy, laziness, fatigue, or tiredness. And yes, infections. So again, it can lead to different conditions and all. So the circle of malnutrition, if we see, it's not like only in children it causes. Even if a children is malnourished, then after becoming an adult or an elderly, this malnutrition circle actually goes on, right? So it's a vicious circle. So if a child is undernourished, then it can lead to a teenager who is undernourished. Then it can lead to an adult who is undernourished, and then a pregnant lady who is undernourished, and then it may lead to a newborn, which is again underweight or low birth weight. And again, in the case of elderly, yes, it can lead to malnutrition, can lead to various problems. So as I told you already, the consequences of malnutrition, we have general debility, weakness, we can have fatigue, tiredness, and of course, poor immunity and recurrent infections. So increase in free radical causes oxidative stress in the body and free radical and cell getting damaged, again due to malnutrition. So what we need basically? So what is healthy eating plate, if we call it? So this is a very good picture from Harvard School of Public Health. And so according to that, a healthy plate should consist of 1/4 portion should consist of maybe more than that vegetable, then fruit, then half of the portion should contain healthy protein and whole grains, right? Along with healthy oils and water. We usually talk about how much water we should have in the day or something like that. So there are various things and all. So drink water, tea or coffee with little or no sugar, right? Limit milk, dairy, 1 2 servings per day, and juice 1 small glass per day. Avoid sugary drinks, right? Eat a variety of whole grains like whole wheat bread, whole grain pasta and brown rice, something like that. Healthy proteins like fish, poultry, beans, nuts. Limit red meat, right? And cheese. Avoid bacon, cold cuts, and other processed meats. Eat plenty of fruits of all colors. So a typical fruit plate should be colorful, right? This is the basic understanding. The more veggies and the greater the variety, the better. Potatoes and French fries don't count, right? Use healthy oils. Now, if we talk about the nutrients, micronutrients, and also there's always been a debate. I mean, how the health supplementation works. Although, if you're having a healthy diet, a good diet, like I showed you before, this healthy plate, usually you can get all your nutrients, which is needed to our body. But what happens? How many people actually get this healthy diet? Not many actually. Like I showed you, there are, because of the bad habits, because of the poor dietary conditions, because of the overeating, obesity, there are various metabolic disorders and all. We actually do not get proper nutritional diet. So that is why we need nutritional supplement to fulfill all the nutrient requirement of our body. In that, of course, vitamins and minerals comes. We should have amino acids, we should have antioxidants, and we should have energy boosters also. Vitamins, as I was telling you, if a patient eating properly, eating a good amount of food, so definitely these vitamins, minerals can be fulfilled, right? Like vitamin A, you can get it from milk and cheese and eggs, liver, oily fish and all. B6 can be taken from the fish, poultry, again B12, fish, meat, again folate from broccoli, Brussels sprout and all. Vitamin C, oranges, orange juice, so all the ascorbic acid and all. Vitamin D from oily fish again. So basically, what I wanted to emphasize is that if you have a good diet, yes, you can get all the nutrients you need. But problem is, most of our patients, they do not get good diet. So that is why health supplementation is needed. Amino acid, why we need amino acid? So amino acid usually obtained from the digestion of protein, right? But large amount of amino acid is lost in body during the process of breakdown and reutilization, right? So thus essential amino acids are required from dietary sources to make up for the loss which occurs during protein catabolism and synthesis. Then we need antioxidants also, because these are the agents which neutralize free radicals. So free radicals are basically harmful substances which usually form during the various metabolic processes of our body. Usually body have their own antioxidant which neutralizes these free radicals, but many of the times we need these kind of antioxidants from outside also to neutralize the free radicals. Then there has been various talks and various discussions about the uses of energy boosters such as ginseng, such as taurine. So ginseng, like, it reduces fatigue by reducing lactic acid formation and improving circulation. It improves concentration and physical stamina. Taurine has been studied for improving metabolism and energy production in the body, and it also reduces oxidative stress. Now, we will talk about few points about impact of taurine on innate and adaptive immunity as a result of HOCl neutralization. So it has been seen that microbial agents of neutrophils enhancement of protease activity by HOCl via inactivation of protease inhibitor. So Basically, taurine induces through this HOCl pathway by inactivating the protease inhibitors. So taurine and cholamine, they both can be considered as modulators of immunity. The reaction of taurine with HOCl, hypochlorite, results in the formation of taurine chloride, which is less toxic, mild oxidant with anti-inflammatory, pro-apoptotic, and antimicrobial properties. Therefore, the primary role of taurine in innate and adaptive immunity is protecting self-component of the immune system from hypochlorite-mediated oxidative damage. At the site of inflammation, the conversion of hypochlorite to taurine chloride switches neutrophils from pro-inflammatory to anti-inflammatory activity. In adaptive immunity, high concentration of taurine in leukocytes will eliminate adjuvant-like effects of hypochlorite against self-proteins to limit the risk of autoimmune reaction. So yes, use of taurine can definitely can improve our immune function and ultimately may reduce the chances of getting infection. You must be already be knowing about ginseng. So ginseng has now been widely used all over the world. So current in vivo and in vitro studies have shown its beneficial effects in a wide range of pathological conditions, such as cardiovascular disease, cancer, immunodeficiencies, and hepatotoxicity, right? Moreover, recent research has suggested that some of ginseng's active ingredients also exert beneficial actions on aging, CNS disorder, and neurodegenerative diseases. In general, antioxidants, anti-inflammatory, anti-apoptotic, and immunostimulant activities are mostly underlying the possible ginseng-mediated protective mechanism. One more paper which shows how ginseng as a multi-purpose herb is one of the most popular and widely available all herbal supplements. Ginseng is popularly used for its adaptogenic, anti-neoplastic, immunomodulatory, and cardiovascular, CNS, endocrine, and ergogenic effects. So overall, it has very good biological effects which are due to anti-inflammatory effects of ginseng. It has been used primarily as a tonic to invigorate weak bodies and help the restoration of homeostasis also. In general, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, anti-apoptotic, and immunostimulant activities are mostly underlying the possible ginseng. Now, so this is my last slide. What we wanted to emphasize, the importance of nutrition. Multiple factors actually determine whether an individual will become sick or not. However, the immune system remains the first line of defense against all external pathogens and other noxious insults, right? Like other cells and organs, immune cells and tissues need to be fed and require adequate supply of energy, nutrients, and micronutrients, serving as cofactor in the development, maintenance, and expression of the immune response. There is a good scientific rationale for combining vitamin, ginseng, and taurine in order to support and modulate immune function to better realize the body's defense potential. So, thank you all. This was my last slide. If you have any queries or any questions, please you can ask.
Dr. Prashant, there is one query from Dr. Fan. What can happen to a patient if he takes overdose of vitamin supplements, and what are the safety of ginseng in cardiovascular patients?
Okay, so yes, definitely. Hypervitaminosis is a condition which may happen because of the overdosing of certain vitamins. Generally saying, water soluble vitamins like vitamin B and C, they are generally considered safe as they do not store in our body, and the whatever the amount which is above the requirement is usually passed out through urine. However, fat soluble vitamin A, D, E, and K, they definitely can have a hypervitaminosis condition. So if they require, I mean, usually so vitamins should be taken as per RDA values, the recommended daily allowance. If you are having more than that, generally we do higher value of vitamins, we give higher value of vitamins during the deficiency state. But once the deficiency status is over, patient is well, all the body storage of vitamins is achieved. After that, simple within the RDA values, you can provide vitamins.
Okay.
And cardiovascular safety, ginseng has been, there are various papers actually, which says that ginseng actually improves cardiovascular profile of the patient. Although large level multi-drug trial, multi-center trials are still not available, but whatever limited studies we have, we can simply say that ginseng within the RDA, within the recommended daily allowance limit, is definitely beneficial in cardiovascular patients.
Dr. Prashant, there is one very interesting question that any concrete evidences which supports the use of nutrition in COVID-19 immunity?
Currently going on for high dose of vitamin C also. Along with that, vitamin A has always been known to improve the immunity against the infection. There is a good thing, if you go into a WHO website, WHO has a clear-cut one statement that vitamin D deficiency can actually lead to various kind of respiratory infection, various bronchiolitis, pneumonia, or even tuberculosis. So it has already been known that these vitamin deficiency states can actually lead to poor immunity, and which can ultimately lead to the chances of infection.
Very well said. And it's another question that is there any good evidence for use of zinc and vitamin C?
Yes, so there are now various trials. If you see like vitamin C, so high dose vitamin C, which has been used now for the COVID-19 active patients. So of course there is no clear-cut guidelines, but there are certain institute level protocols which uses vitamin C in the 500 milligram doses, maybe twice daily or even thrice daily. There are papers which suggest IV vitamin C in the range of more than 1 gram has also been used for the treatment of COVID-19 patients. So in general, what we can say safely, there are various papers, various proofs we have that use of zinc and vitamin C can lead to good immune function and which can prevent COVID-19 also.
Okay, there is one more query, Dr. Prashant, from Dr. Walker. He's saying all our vitamins, or he mean to say that all vitamins are good for health. Really, can it cause any reaction in patients? Means they all safe. Blindly we can use, or they may cause some reaction also into the patient interaction. What is your opinion?
Yes, it's actually a good question. See, vitamins and minerals are the what we say the building blocks. I mean, we need vitamins, we need minerals, right? So usually our requirements, for the vitamins and minerals can be fulfilled with the help of the good diet, right? If you are eating good diet, you are taking good diet, good amount of carbs, fat, and all vegetables, fruits. So all the minerals and vitamins requirement can be fulfilled by those. But the issue is that in most of our patients usually are not taking sufficient amount of these vegetables and fruits. That is why the deficiency status or maintaining a good healthy vitamin or minerals level inside the body is a challenge. So that is why health supplementations are required. Now we talk about reactions and all. So usually there have been not many reports actually with the use of any vitamins or minerals. Is there any reaction? Yes, the thing is that certain vitamins and certain minerals, I mean, if you are taking more than what is required, then definitely they may lead to hypervitaminosis or hypermineral condition, which can be lethal to the patient. For example, if I take about zinc, so zinc normal usual RDA is in the range of 11 to 12. That is for the adult range. And in the deficiency state, yes, you can go up to even 40 mg. But in the range, if a zinc, if it is taken, I mean, once a deficiency status is over, you should again come back to RDA level. If you continue to give the higher doses of zinc, then definitely it can lead to confused mental status. It can lead to various metabolic disorders So definitely we should avoid the hypervitaminosis or hypermineral concentration condition.
And Dr. Prashant, there is one more query from a doctor. He says that when we talk about the Africa, the supplements, it's very hard to make sometimes patient understand the cost benefit ratio of supplements, because since it's a developing nation, and yes, we write considering the safety profile and benefits to the patient. So what are the wordings? What are the things we should make understand the patient that it is beneficial for you, and I'm writing it for your benefits. It may be a cost, a bit may be high. So how a doctor should counsel the patient about supplements?
See, counseling a patient is, I guess, it's always been an art. I mean, you cannot tell the patient about facts and figures and all. It is what you need to make them understand. But being said that, before that, I would like to mention one more point again and again. If a patient is having good diet, taking good diet, good care, then definitely he or she might not need the health supplementation. Health supplementation cannot be our first thing. I mean, they always say it's a supplement. They are the supplement. They cannot be the substitute for the healthy diet, right? So being said, there are many patients where deficiency is there. You can identify those such kind of patients. Like there is a immunity, even there is a questionnaire which is available on the net also, where we can identify who's the patient who are more prone for infection. So more prone of infection, the first thing usually is they have a poor immunity, and poor immunity can be because of many conditions. Yes, so you can rule out, but generally, in general sense, if we talk about, the poor immunity is associated with the poor diet also. So yes, you have to make them understand, and I completely agree. It's one of the toughest job of a doctor, that to make a patient understand. Patient is okay to take, like I would say, if patient is diabetic, he or she is always ready to take. Okay, I can take metformin, I will take sulfonylurea, but taking a health supplementation, usually patients say, no, I will take it from my diet. But the problem is diet is not sufficient most of the time. So I mean, and actually there is no clear-cut answer to that question. How to make a patient convinced to that? That is up to you only.
Okay, and there is a very common question when we talk about the. Sometimes doctor ask. Sometimes doctor has been bombarded with so many formulations in terms of multivitamins, capsule, and other side tablets are there. So which one they have to go for? Any benefits which is associated with tablet dosage form as compared to the capsule? Or what's your opinion from clinical perspective? Any differentiation, or it's the same?
Actually, clinically, if I talk about, there is nothing, not much of a difference. I mean, until unless if there is something like for the absorptions and all. So like certain vitamins which are okay, if you take it with the fat, so they are fat soluble. So if you take it with the full meal, definitely their absorption will be higher. But other than that, there is not much difference between taking a tablet or capsule, particularly for the vitamins and minerals, I would say. So whichever is palatable or easily, because tablets usually are not palatable, capsules are palatable. I mean, depending upon the patient's choice and doctor's choice, it can be different.
And sir, there is one more query, and the doctor wants to know what are the guidelines, what are the available guidelines for prescribing multivitamins. If we want to seek some information, what are the credible source available for multivitamins?
So if you go, there are various guidelines actually, but like NHS from UK, so which is a well-known agency for this nutrition support and all. But still, I would say they will always every guidelines. Like I also said, I mean many times, that first thing is we need vitamins, minerals, but the first source should be our diet, not the health supplementation. Health supplementations are needed when diet is not fulfilling our need of the vitamins and minerals. So If you talk about guidelines, guidelines will definitely say about you need vitamins, you need minerals. There are RDAs, recommended daily allowances, which will mention. There is a mention of how much vitamin D, vitamin C you should, or any other vitamins or mineral you need in the deficient state, in the maintenance state. So you have guidelines, like for example, NHS, which I just said, and WHO guidelines are there, which clearly states that these are the recommended daily allowances. How you take it, that is up to doctor and the patient. So in what form, like if you want to take it in the form of a diet, well and good. If you want to take it in the form of health supplementation, that is again up to you.
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Prashant, for the wonderful insight about the multivitamin supplementation, and really you have really linked well with the immunity and its importance in the future as well and the nearby, considering this COVID-19 pandemic. Once again, we thank for your support and encouragement as far as the doctors are concerned who have joined from various geographies. And with that, we wrap up the session. And thank you so much, Dr. Prashant, for your wonderful insight.
Thank you, Team Mankind, and thank you all the audience who have joined us here.